Alright, let's start by spraying down the bolts that we're going to take off. So, the outer tie rod, the locking nut, and the inner boot that we're going to take off. Let's start with the locking nut here. Let's heat it up first. This is a 19. Okay, now let's take off the nut on the outer tie rod. Okay, now we're going to tap it with the hammer to free it. Okay, before we twist it off, we're going to count the number of turns it takes so we can put the new one back in the same amount of turns. Okay, so before we take off the rubber sleeve, the rubber boot that's inside, we're gonna need to remove the locking nut since it's in the way. So if it is seized, you're gonna have to heat it up again. Okay, so we're going to hold the inner tie rod with a 13 wrench, and then I'm going to stick a socket with an impact to take out the locking nut. Okay, there you go, it's free. Now let's go ahead and remove the clamp that's on the boot. Now we're just going to use a screwdriver to separate the boot from the inner tie rod, because they usually stick together. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take off the clamp that's holding on the inner boot. So these are metal clamps, so where the notch is, we're going to have to use a screwdriver and tap on it to separate it. Okay, so after you hammered it, it should separate from the boot. It's kind of hard to see. So there it is. If you don't have another replacement for it, it's fine. We're just going to put the zip ties when we're done. Okay, so here's a closer look at it. Wherever this notch is on your car, you're gonna stick a screwdriver in there, like this, and then hammer, and it's gonna separate by itself with a few taps. Okay, now your inner boot should come out, like so. Okay, so we're going to start by putting the adapter first on the inner tie rod. Okay, now we're gonna get our new one ready for installation. So all you need is We're gonna put some red Loctite on the threads. Okay, we're gonna start putting it in by hand. Okay, before we put back the rubber boot, we're gonna take off this locking nut. Okay, before we put the inner boot, we're gonna put a zip tie, but we're not gonna tighten it all the way. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put back the clamp on the rubber boot. Now let's put the locking nut. Now we're going to put some anti-seize on the threads here. Now for the new outer tie rod. Now make sure you're going to count the number of turns that we did previously. Now we're going to line it up with the knuckle. And finally, we're gonna lock the locking nut here. And now we're all done. Let's go ahead and put back the wheel. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you find this helpful. And last step, don't forget to go to a shop and get your alignment, since your steering wheel is going to be a bit crooked. That's normal. But other than that, see you guys in the next one.